Imagine drifting through space, where not even darkness has an end. This is the loneliest place that has ever existed. No stars, no galaxies, no escape. You are a lost astronaut in the largest cold and dark region of the universe. This place is completely empty. There are no stars, no planets, no galaxies. For hundreds of millions of light years, you wouldn't encounter a single living being. Yes, this place is called the Botas Void, or as I like to call it, the Great Nothingness. If you cannot find your way back to your ship, you will drift through this strange darkness for billions of years. That means your frozen and dried body will remain lost in this space for thousands of years, because no one is coming to save you. And the surprising part about space is that, throughout all this time, you will be staring at it. Yes, look toward the northern sky and stretch your finger between the Big Dipper and Arcturus, the fourth brightest star in the night sky and a red giant. Right there, at this very moment, you are looking into emptiness, into the Botas Void, in the constellation Botas. From Earth, it is barely visible, but it is there, and you do not want to be there, but that is exactly where you are. Imagine what it would be like to fall into this incomprehensible sea of darkness. First of all, reaching it would take an almost impossible amount of time. The Botas Void is 700 million light years away from Earth. There is hardly any need to explain how far that is. To give you a more concrete idea, our nearest large galaxy, Andromeda, is 2.5 million light years away. The Botas Void is 280 times farther than that. So even if you could travel at the speed of light, which as far as I know is currently impossible, it would take you 700 million years to get there. That is nearly the same amount of time it took for life on Earth to evolve from simple sponges to fish, reptiles, dinosaurs, humans, and finally to us today. If you tried to get there using our current technology, it would be nearly impossible. Our fastest spacecraft, the Parker Solar Probe, travels at only about 0.05% of the speed of light. At that speed, it would take more than 1 trillion years to reach the Botas Void. Yes, 1 trillion years. Space is truly mind-boggling. And besides, you cannot board the Parker Solar Probe anyway, because it has no life support systems, no seats, and no seat belts. It is just a probe. But let's imagine, hypothetically, that you have a spacecraft with capabilities far beyond anything we currently know. You board your ship and leave Earth's orbit. But leaving Earth is one thing. Escaping the solar system is something else entirely. Passing Mars, Jupiter, and the other planets and reaching interstellar space will not be easy. No, your spacecraft must move along a specific path. Because to leave the solar system, you must escape the sun's gravitational pull. Yes, you see, Earth and the other planets orbit the sun. Earth moves along its orbit at about 30 kilometers per second. For your spacecraft to escape the sun's gravity, it must be traveling faster than that. And you cannot exit the solar system in a straight line. You have to move in a spiral path. In short, you must loop around the sun several times. And with each pass, your orbit will grow wider. No problem. You are in a super-fast, extraordinary spacecraft. You can manage this. As you move farther away from our solar system and the Milky Way, you begin to notice the sky gradually emptying. The sky near Earth is filled with millions of stars from the Milky Way. But the moment you step outside our galaxy, those stars disappear from view. Still, you have not reached emptiness yet. The Milky Way is about 100,000 light years wide, and Earth is located somewhere between the center and the edge of the galaxy. If you could travel in a straight line to the edge of the galaxy at close to the speed of light, it would take about 26,000 years to get out. Yes, even in your hypothetical spacecraft, it would take an incredibly long time to reach true emptiness. And when you finally leave the Milky Way, as I mentioned earlier, the stars vanish. You now see only scattered, fuzzy patches of light. These are distant galaxies, but soon they too fade away. Eventually, after millions of years of travel at the speed of light, you pass one of the last major clusters, in Ursa Major, part of the Big Dipper. After that, there will be no more galaxies ahead of you. Behind you, only a completely black background. The most interesting part is that when you reach the edge of the void, you still have an enormous distance left to travel. To enter the Buddha's void, or to reach its center, requires an even more impossible journey. That is because the Buddha's void is 330 million light-years wide. It is the largest known void in the universe, truly enormous. Even at the speed of light, it would take 165 million years just to travel from one edge to the center. If you try to express this in kilometers or miles, it comes out to about 1.5 quadrillion kilometers, or roughly 1 quadrillion miles. Just to reach halfway, you would need to travel hundreds of trillions of miles. That is how vast this void really is. And that is why it is called the Great Nothing. But let's say you decide to try anyway. Entering the void would not feel like falling into a pit. There is no sudden drop, no gravitational pull dragging you in. It is just emptiness. No matter, almost no light. When you reach the center of the void and step outside your ship, you would be in near total darkness. To the naked eye, you would see no stars or galaxies in any direction. The nearest galaxy would be about 10 million light-years away. At that distance, even the brightest galaxy would be far too faint for your eyes to detect. Everything around you would appear completely black. If you have ever gone cave diving or experienced a sensory deprivation tank, you might have some idea of what this would feel like. But this time, you would not be floating in warm water filled with relaxing Epsom salt. You would be in pure nothingness. And did I forget to mention the temperature? About 3 Kelvin or 270 day. That is 454 day. The lowest temperature possible in space. Your spacesuit would need extremely good insulation. Now, if you are wondering how we even discovered such an empty place, we have to go back to the 1970s and early 1980s. At that time, astronomers were trying to map the universe in 3 dimensions. While measuring how fast different galaxies were moving away from Earth, they found a vast region of space containing thousands and millions fewer galaxies than expected. Huge gaps between galaxies. That was strange. A massive empty region in the middle of space. In recent years, scientists have begun to understand how the universe is actually structured. And it is probably not how you imagine it. When you look at the sky, it may seem as though trillions of stars are evenly spread in all directions. But in reality, the universe contains filament-like structures made of stars, galaxies, and galactic superclusters. This is a gigantic cosmic web, where all the known matter in the universe is arranged in specific patterns, leaving empty regions in between. Some scientists call this a cosmic foam or quantum foam. The voids are the bubbles. So why do these voids exist? Because there is a universal force that binds everything together. Gravity. Yes, that's right. Ever since the universe formed in the extremely hot and energetic event we call the Big Bang, gravity has been pulling stars, planets, and galaxies into these enormous structures. Scientists call them galactic walls and superclusters. And gravity continues to pull them together. Not literally forever, but for billions of years since the universe formed 13.8 billion years ago, these superclusters have grown denser and have attracted more and more matter. As the dense regions of space became even denser, the empty regions became emptier. This is what created the voids between clusters in the cosmic web, or cosmic foam, which I admit sounds a bit strange. The foam analogy might be easier to understand if you imagine sea foam or soap bubbles while washing dishes. When your sink is full of soap bubbles, it looks like it is filled with something solid, but in reality, most of it is just air with a little bit of detergent. The universe is similar. It is made up of enormous galaxies connected in complex ways, with vast amounts of empty space between them. That empty space is scientifically called a void, and there are many of them. Scientists estimate that about 80% of the universe consists of voids. So yes, space is incredibly vast and incredibly empty. Considering the huge distances between galaxies, stars, and planets, this makes sense. After all, you have been traveling through space for 700 million years by now, so you should know. Among all these cosmic voids, the Buddha's void is the largest one we have ever discovered. So what would it feel like to fall into the center of this super void? A void is not like a planet or a black hole. It is simply an empty region. If you were released from your high-speed spacecraft or somehow drifted into it, you would float in microgravity, just like anywhere else in deep space. You would not feel any downward direction, because in a void, every direction is down. You would experience a kind of endless free fall. But unlike other regions of space that still contain stars or galaxies, here you would have no visual reference point. With nothing glowing in front of you, you might not even realize whether you are moving at all. If your spacecraft's power ran out and its lights went off, you would completely lose your sense of direction and distance, because this is emptiness in its purest form, the most fundamental kind of nothingness in nature. Maybe, if your spacesuit had extremely sensitive instruments, you could detect a few faint glimmers far away, galaxies at the edge of the void, or perhaps a handful of small galaxies inside it. Yes, despite its name, the Great Void is not completely empty. Researchers believe there are about 60 isolated galaxies inside it, and most of them appear to be arranged along a single filament running through the void. 60 galaxies might sound like a lot, but in a region this vast, it is like trying to find 60 goldfish in the Pacific Ocean. Your chances of encountering one are almost zero. With your naked eyes, you would see nothing but endless blackness, total silence, perfect vacuum, darker than the inside of a cave. X code 000. If you fall in or end up in a situation where you cannot tell where you are or which direction you are going, you would be trapped there forever. Just you and the emptiness of space. Maybe this would drive you insane. Or maybe, strangely, you might feel a sense of calm, assuming you had a suit capable of keeping you alive. There would be no one else around you, nothing to crash into. You would drift in the dark, never knowing up from down, floating forever in the largest void in the universe. That's the reality. There is nothing to observe here. Literally, maybe we could move on to something more visually interesting. There are places that are not just endless darkness. Our own solar system, for example, is only about 2 light-years across, and there are still many regions we have not fully explored. We have sent robotic probes to Mars and even to Venus, but we have never set foot on these planets ourselves. We have not even visited Pluto, the beloved dwarf planet. But maybe we should not set foot on Venus, because it is so dangerous that you would not survive even 1 hour there. I know this because I once sent our interstellar explorer Chase to spend 100 days on that terrifying planet. But that is a different story. So, what if that were the case?